Secrets hide in the corners of your home, quietly shaping the energy around you. Shaolin philosophy teaches that every space carries a presence, an invisible force that mirrors your mind and spirit. Today, I will reveal the power of a sacred spot within your home, a place where calm, focus, and intention converge to create a center of clarity. By the end of this video, you will understand not just the ritual of placing salt, but the deeper wisdom behind it, why this small, deliberate act can shift your energy, invite abundance, and align you with the flow of life in ways most people never notice. There are truths about energy and prosperity that rarely appear in mainstream teachings, hidden in the practices of ancient masters who knew that external abundance is always a reflection of internal mastery. The placement of salt in a sacred spot is more than a superstition. It is a doorway into awareness, discipline, and subtle alignment with the forces that guide fortune. Few realize that the spaces we overlook every day carry lessons about clarity, patience, and presence. Today you will uncover these lesser-known insights, learning how mindfulness transforms ordinary routines into powerful rituals, how silence can reveal hidden patterns in your life, and how the rhythms of your home echo the rhythms of your mind. Each moment spent in awareness strengthens your connection to inner clarity, discipline, and the flow of prosperity. Welcome to Heng Chronicles, where ancient wisdom meets practical mastery for everyday life. Stay with me until the end, and you will see how a simple act can unlock opportunities you never knew existed. If this journey calls to you, subscribe now and join a community devoted to conscious living, mastery, and the subtle secrets of energy that shape our world. Even the simplest things can carry profound meaning if we take the time to look deeply. Salt, plain and unassuming, holds a quiet power that speaks to the mind as much as to the space it touches. In the Shaolin tradition, nothing is meaningless. Every object, every gesture, every placement is a reflection of the inner state. Salt is not a charm nor a spell. It is a mirror for discipline, a tool for clarity. Its grains remind us that purification begins within, that focus is cultivated through small, deliberate acts repeated with awareness. When a Shaolin master places a tool or an object, it is never for show. It is a lesson in patience and precision, a reminder that the world outside mirrors the mind inside. Salt becomes more than a mineral, it becomes a symbol. It teaches that clarity is not a sudden gift, but a cultivated state, that the mind, like the home, must be maintained with care. As each grain settles in its place, it reflects the quiet order we strive to establish within ourselves. Consider the spaces where you live and work. Disorder and chaos in your surroundings often echo distraction and unrest within. When you approach a simple object like salt with mindfulness, it transforms into a vessel of intention. It calls attention to presence, to awareness, and to the subtle currents of energy that shape daily life. The act of placing it in a sacred spot is not about invoking fortune from outside, but about aligning the self, refining focus, and cleansing the mind of residue that clouds perception. In this way, salt teaches a lesson older than wealth or luck. It teaches mastery over self, the first and most essential step in any pursuit of clarity, power, or peace. True prosperity is born not from chance, but from the quiet cultivation of the mind. The thoughts we nurture, the attention we give, and the intentions we hold form the foundation of what we call abundance. Wealth, opportunity, and success are reflections of clarity, discipline, and focus within. When the mind is scattered, even the most favorable circumstances slip through unnoticed. When it is steady and aligned, even small actions carry the weight of intention and create meaningful results. The simple act of placing salt in a sacred spot becomes a meditation in focus, a practice of aligning inner and outer worlds. Each careful movement reminds the mind to remain present, to act with purpose rather than impulse. It is not the salt that brings change, but the awareness it demands. the attention to order, the patience to perform the act with quiet reverence, the subtle concentration that flows from thought to hand to space. In this way, the ritual itself strengthens the mind, cultivating habits of care, reflection, and precision. Ancient teachings remind us that mastery begins in the unseen. The mind is a landscape, and thoughts are the seeds we plant. When clarity guides our actions, when intention shapes even the smallest gestures, abundance follows naturally, like water finding its path. The ritual of mindful placement becomes a mirror, showing where attention lingers and where it wavers. It transforms routine into discipline, presence into power. In this practice, prosperity is revealed not as a distant goal, but as a natural consequence of internal order. The alignment of thought, intention, and action prepares the ground for opportunities to emerge, for energy to flow, and for results to manifest in harmony with effort. Each mindful act, though simple, carries the weight of mastery, shaping both the environment and the mind in ways that ripple outward, quietly but inexorably, toward abundance. Even the smallest gestures hold more power than we often realize. Every deliberate action, no matter how ordinary it seems, leaves an imprint on the mind and shapes the energy around us. In the quiet discipline of ancient teachings, no movement is wasted. Folding a piece of cloth, arranging a room, or placing salt in a sacred spot becomes more than a routine. It becomes a practice of presence, a conversation between intention and action. When performed with awareness, even the simplest task trains patience, focus, and clarity. Mindfulness has a way of transforming the mundane into something sacred. It teaches that the quality of attention matters more than the quantity of effort. Washing a surface, sweeping a floor, or touching each grain of salt is no longer a chore. It becomes a method of tuning the mind, of observing how thoughts arise and pass. In these moments, discipline is born, not as restriction, but as the steady cultivation of inner strength. Each small act, repeated with care, reinforces a pattern of intentional living that ripples through all areas of life. The ancients understood that mastery grows in quiet consistency. Just as a river shapes the stone over time, deliberate attention shapes the mind and heart. Energy flows where focus goes, and repeated mindful acts deepen awareness, sharpen perception, and foster a sense of harmony with the world. The home becomes a reflection of inner order, and the body a tool of consciousness. Through these practices, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. A simple placement, a careful gesture, a measured breath, all become instruments of growth. The act itself carries meaning, guiding the mind toward clarity, the spirit toward calm, and the heart toward discipline. In this way, small deliberate actions accumulate, quietly building a foundation of mastery, resilience, and inner abundance that extends far beyond the moment in which they are performed. True mastery begins long before action. In Shaolin philosophy, the mind must arrive before the body moves. Presence is not simply awareness of the moment, it is the steady anchoring of thought, emotion, and energy in alignment with intention. Without it, actions scatter like leaves in the wind, powerful energy dissipating without direction. The sacred spot in a home becomes more than a place. It becomes a teacher. It asks for patience, attention, and reverence, reminding the practitioner that every movement carries weight only when grounded in presence. When approaching this sacred space, the first step is quiet observation. Feel the energy of the room, notice the subtle currents of light and shadow, the flow of air, and the stillness beneath it all. The act of pausing, of centering, transforms a simple ritual into a meditation on alignment. Thoughts settle, emotions soften, and the body responds with calm readiness. The sacred spot mirrors the inner landscape. When the mind is clear and focused, the space becomes a channel through which disciplined energy can flow. The ancients often taught that haste and distraction are the enemies of mastery. A hand that moves without focus is blind. A mind that acts without grounding is lost. By cultivating presence first, every subsequent gesture gains clarity, purpose, and resonance. Placing an object, adjusting a corner, or performing a small ritual is no longer mechanical. It becomes an expression of inner harmony. Over time, this practice builds subtle but profound strength. Presence becomes second nature, guiding not only simple rituals but the choices and actions of daily life. The sacred spot is both anchor and mirror, reflecting the harmony cultivated within and directing the energy outward. Through this mindful approach, thought, emotion, and action merge, forming the foundation of inner mastery, steady discipline, and a life lived in balance with unseen currents of energy and intention. The spaces we inhabit are never separate from the mind that perceives them. Disorder in a room often reflects turbulence within, a subtle chaos of thought, emotion, or energy that lingers unnoticed. Shaolin teachings remind us that clarity begins with both internal and external order. When the environment is tended with care, the mind mirrors this attention, becoming steadier, calmer, and more receptive. Every object in its place, every surface cleansed, is a reflection of disciplined thought and conscious presence. Salt, in its simplicity, becomes a powerful symbol in this practice. Placing it deliberately in a sacred spot is more than a ritual. It is an act of purification, a gentle yet deliberate cleansing of space and mind alike. As each grain settles, it carries intention, silently marking a boundary between clarity and distraction, between focus and chaos. The act trains awareness, teaching that attention to detail cultivates harmony within and around oneself. It is a reminder that the external environment is a canvas for the internal state, and that maintaining order in the home is inseparable from cultivating order in the mind. The ancients understood that subtle habits shape character. A practiced hand, moving slowly and with intention, transforms the ordinary into a moment of reflection and mastery. Salt placement becomes an exercise in presence, patience, and subtle energy alignment. As the ritual is performed, attention sharpens, the mind calms, and a sense of centeredness grows. What begins as a small, tangible act extends beyond the space it occupies, influencing thoughts, emotions, and responses in daily life. Through this mindful practice, the sacred spot evolves into a mirror of inner discipline. The home becomes not just a shelter, but a reflection of clarity and intention. Physical order fosters mental clarity, and every intentional gesture of purification strengthens the connection between environment and consciousness, creating a subtle but profound foundation for inner mastery and balanced energy. True mastery is never born from sudden acts of effort or fleeting inspiration. It grows quietly, steadily, through repetition and devotion. Shaolin philosophy teaches that one careful step, taken once, carries little weight. It is the unbroken rhythm of disciplined practice that shapes character and cultivates strength. Each day becomes an opportunity to refine the mind, train the senses, and align intention with action. In this way, consistency becomes the path to profound inner transformation. Daily mindful practices, no matter how simple, are the scaffolding of mastery. Placing salt in a sacred spot each day, attending to small tasks with deliberate care, or pausing to center attention, transforms ordinary moments into exercises in presence. These repeated gestures train patience, teaching the mind to endure without haste. They strengthen focus, drawing awareness inward and sharpening sensitivity to subtle currents of thought and energy. Over time, these small acts accumulate, building resilience, clarity, and inner power that cannot be gained through sporadic effort alone. The ancients understood that habits are the architecture of the mind. Just as a sculptor chisels stone gradually to reveal form, the mind shapes itself through disciplined repetition. Each mindful act becomes a thread in a larger tapestry, weaving awareness, calm, and purpose into the very fabric of being. Even when the immediate results are invisible, the inner landscape shifts, subtle energy aligns, distractions lose their hold, and presence deepens. Consistency also nurtures trust in oneself. It teaches that real progress emerges not from external events or sudden fortune, but from reliable commitment to practice. Through daily mindful attention, the sacred spot in the home transforms into a center of training, and each small act performed with care reinforces the unseen but powerful foundation of inner mastery, discipline, and clarity that guides every thought, gesture, and choice in life. True abundance begins within. Shaolin wisdom teaches that the world outside is a reflection of the inner landscape. When the mind is clear, emotions balanced, and intentions disciplined, opportunities naturally present themselves. External prosperity is never separate from internal mastery. It mirrors the order, focus, and gratitude cultivated in the quiet spaces of thought and reflection. A home attended with care, a mind honed with awareness, and a spirit rooted in patience create an environment where fortune and possibility flow effortlessly. Tending one's space is more than cleaning or arranging objects. It is an act of alignment. Each careful movement, each deliberate choice, signals respect for both the environment and the self. A sacred spot, maintained with mindful attention, becomes a center of energy, a place where focus and intention converge. As the external world responds to this cultivated order, opportunities begin to emerge, often unnoticed at first, subtle as a shift in light or a quiet opening of a door. The energy of clarity attracts similar energy, and through consistent care, the rhythms of life begin to harmonize with the practitioner's intentions. Gratitude is the quiet current that strengthens this process. Recognizing the abundance already present amplifies awareness and receptivity. Discipline ensures that these practices are sustained, shaping a pattern that extends beyond the home and into every action. The combination of clarity, gratitude, and disciplined attention forms a subtle magnet, drawing circumstances and people into alignment with purpose. Ancient teachings remind us that mastery of self is inseparable from the flow of life. By tending both mind and space with care, the practitioner creates fertile ground where fortune and opportunity can grow naturally, without force or struggle. External prosperity is not a distant goal, but a reflection of an inner state refined through patience, awareness, and the quiet cultivation of presence, discipline, and balance. Even the smallest actions carry weight beyond what the eye can see. Shaolin teachings emphasize that every gesture, no matter how simple, sets ripples through the mind, the environment, and the flow of life itself. A single mindful act, a careful placement, a deliberate breath, a silent pause, has the power to influence thought, intention, and energy in subtle but profound ways. The practice of awareness transforms ordinary moments into lessons in cause and effect, showing that nothing exists in isolation. A single ritual, performed with focus and reverence, becomes a mirror for the choices we make throughout life. Placing salt in a sacred spot, for example, is not about the salt itself, but about the intention it embodies. Each deliberate movement calls attention to the mind, highlighting patterns of distraction, impatience, or carelessness. Through repetition, the ritual teaches that awareness and intention shape outcomes far more than random chance. The external world responds in quiet ways to this alignment, reflecting the discipline, patience, and care cultivated within. The ancients understood that mastery is built from these ripples. Like stones cast into still water, each conscious act spreads outward, intersecting with countless unseen currents. Over time, the accumulation of small intentional gestures creates a momentum that cannot be ignored. Habits formed through mindfulness become the architecture of character, guiding decisions, relationships, and energy with precision and calm. Through this lens, even the simplest tasks acquire significance. Making a bed, arranging objects, or maintaining a sacred spot becomes an exercise in observation, presence, and alignment. Each act strengthens the connection between thought and consequence, teaching that discipline is not only a personal virtue, but a force that shapes the world around us. The ripple of mindful action extends beyond the moment, leaving traces of clarity, mastery, and subtle power that influence both the inner and outer life. The turning of the year carries a quiet weight, a natural pause that invites reflection and preparation. In the stillness between what has passed and what is to come, the mind has a chance to take stock, to observe patterns, and to adjust course with clarity. Shaolin philosophy teaches that life flows in cycles, and mastery arises when actions are aligned with these natural rhythms rather than forced against them. Just as seasons shift and rivers follow their course, so too must the mind and body move in harmony with the larger currents of time. Year-end is more than a calendar marker. It is an opportunity to bring intention to what might otherwise be overlooked, reflecting on accomplishments, challenges, and lessons learned allows the mind to discern what deserves attention and what can be released. Preparing for the year ahead becomes a practice in alignment, organizing the home, focusing energy, and setting intentions in a way that resonates with natural order. In this way, actions are not random or reactive, but deliberate expressions of inner clarity and discipline. The ancients understood that small adjustments, made in harmony with the cycles of life, have a ripple effect that extends far beyond the immediate moment. Observing these rhythms nurtures patience and timing, teaching that force often disrupts flow while awareness strengthens it. Rituals performed at meaningful times are infused with greater potency, not through magic, but through the resonance between action and natural rhythm. Through mindful reflection and preparation at the year's end, one cultivates a balance of insight and readiness. The sacred spot, attended with care, becomes both anchor and guide, a place to center thought, emotion, and energy. Aligning actions with these natural markers transforms ordinary planning into a practice of mastery, discipline, and presence, allowing the mind to move gracefully into the new cycle, steady, aware, and attuned to the subtle currents that shape life. The first step toward true abundance is always to see clearly what is already present. Shaolin wisdom teaches that the mind must acknowledge its own wealth before it can attract more. Without recognition of what exists, desire becomes restless, scattered, and blind to opportunity. Gratitude is not a fleeting sentiment, it is a form of discipline, a practice of attention that tunes the mind to the subtleties of life. When each blessing, each small resource, each moment of clarity is honored, energy deepens and the mind opens to possibilities that were previously unnoticed. By pausing to observe and appreciate the present, the inner landscape shifts, restlessness softens, and focus sharpens. Simple acts, acknowledging a quiet home, the air flowing through a window, the warmth of a familiar space, become exercises in awareness. Gratitude acts as a lens, amplifying perception, illuminating patterns, and guiding attention toward what truly matters. The sacred spot in a home, when attended with mindfulness, becomes a physical reminder of this principle. Each grain of salt, each carefully placed object, is a testament to deliberate care and recognition of abundance already at hand. Ancient masters understood that receptivity is cultivated through acknowledgement. The mind that notices what it already possesses is attuned to receive more, not through frantic pursuit, but through harmonious alignment with natural flow. Gratitude is the subtle force that heightens sensitivity to opportunity, strengthens focus, and balances desire with presence. It transforms the ordinary into fertile ground, where energy can move freely and intention meets action. Through this practice, wealth is not measured solely in material gain, but in clarity, composure, and the cultivated ability to act from a centered place. Recognizing what already exists lays the foundation for every achievement, making future abundance not a distant hope, but a natural extension of awareness, discipline, and the quiet mastery of self.